What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the ARC podcast. On this week's episode, we interviewed Devin Smeltzer. Matt couldn't join us because Matt is in season coaching right now, but we interviewed Devin Smeltzer and got to talk about his unique journey through baseball. Starting out as a kid, he fought his battle with cancer, kind of explained how sports helped him through that process, the way that at an early age was able to help him build mental resilience and work through that in order to get where he is today. He goes into his high school career and how he ended up getting recruited out of high school, went to college, went in and got drafted out of college, played for the Dodgers organization, played for the Twins in the major leagues, played for the Marlins. Now he's on his journey going to play in the Mexican League this year with hopes to return back to the big leagues. And, he gave an awesome interview with some really good insights as to his mental preparation before going into performance, and goes over all the things and obstacles that he went through throughout his time in affiliate baseball. And going into where he is today. It was an awesome interview, really, really cool insights from him. So very thankful for that. And I hope you guys enjoy the episode. Thanks. What's up, man? How's it going? Thanks for coming on the pod.
What's up, brother? Thanks for having me, man.
Good to see you. We've already had some good conversations before this started, but for everyone that doesn't know, this is Devin Smeltzer, former big league pitcher, uh, current Mexican League pitcher, has had an awesome past, really embodies like the resilience factor that we've talked about. But enough out of me. I'll hand it over to Devin, and you can kind of go into your story and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so had a great career so far, man. It's been fun trying to get back to the big leagues, but like speaking on the resilience side of things, like being faced with the adversity I had as a kid, um, kind of really shaped me into who I was. Made me, being faced with death at 10 is kind of like, you sink or swim. You got to grow up. You look at life a lot different, puts life into perspective. Um, but yeah, went through the cancer treatments and stuff for about a year, went into remission in '06. So it's crazy, but we're coming up on 20 years
Yeah.
somehow. Um, but it's been wild. But yeah, really, like for me, I was never, the flamethrower, the overpowering guy. Like in my whole career, I think I was only considered a hard thrower, like maybe my sophomore, junior year of high school, and then everybody started throwing 95 and passing. Like, I've always had a pitching background because I never threw hard. I had to learn how to pitch and change speeds. And um, yeah, man, like I went to college, was faced with some more adversity there. Didn't necessarily love the situation I was in. Got the opportunity to go to Cape Cod and, absolutely lit it up. Kind of opened some more doors to transfer, go to JUCO, and was very, very blessed to pitch under Woody Williams at San Jack, who had a 13, 14-year big league career. He taught me what it was and what it meant to be a big leaguer as a college kid. Um, and I took, everything he taught me and through my experiences and, was blessed to get drafted in 2016 and work my way through the ranks with the Dodgers, get traded to the Twins, get to the big leagues. And then the ups and downs, of the business side of the game. And, you got to find a way to stay strong mentally to kind of deal with those ups and downs because, so many guys I've played with, getting sent down so little has to do with talent
Yeah.
or performance. It's needed in that moment. Is your door open? Is your door closed? Is it cracked open? Is the team winning? Do they need to win now? Are you the best option? There's so much that goes into it, and it's so much out of your control. And understanding the mindset. Like I know my agent, like running into to log jams through my career, like my agent would always call and like, I got the ass and like pissed off and want to get called up. And he's like, dude, stay healthy. Watch what happens. Stay healthy. Watch what happens. That's always, was his mindset, and be an option when they need somebody. And it was a hard mindset to get in, but once I grasped that, like understanding my role as a swingman, and sometimes I'm going to go up and start, sometimes I'm going to go up and relieve.
Hmm.
You're in the minors for a month, you're in the big leagues for a month, like that. There's ups and downs, but just finding a way to enjoy the shitstorm and have fun and realize, you're doing something that a lot of people would kill for, and just appreciating the lifestyle of the big leagues. And it's been a wild ride, man. I've officially been through it all, from playoffs, the debuts, the released, and optioned, and DFA'd, and you name it. Now I'm heading over to or down to Mexico to try to get myself back to the big leagues. I got a lot of fight left in me, and kind of revamped everything this off season from a mental standpoint, a physical standpoint, and I'm gonna give it a run. I'll tell you that.
Definitely, man. I certainly know you will. Watching you pitch for a while, man. You got a lot of fight in you, and you're a competitor, man. So excited for that next journey for you. But let's take it back to, you said the beginning. Obviously, your battle with cancer and overcoming that. Can you kind of talk about, I guess, the experience of that mentally for you? Not only that, and I've heard you talk in the past, and I think we've had this conversation in the past as well, like the impact that the sport of baseball had on you kind of getting through that process and mentally kind of being where you need to be at such a young age, because that's something that, like, obviously we hope no one ever has to deal with, but you obviously overcame it.
Yeah, I mean, so when you're going through cancer treatments, your body takes such a hit. They chemo and radiation don't it can't decipher from a good cell and a bad cell. So they have their algorithm that they plug into how close can we get to killing this guy to kill all the bad stuff, but
Yeah.
not kill all the good stuff. Like it's absolutely insane. It beats you down. So like can't go to school, couldn't go to training facilities with teams, couldn't go to the mall, couldn't go to church, couldn't just do kid stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, I was blessed enough at the time. I was playing for the young guns. And while everyone was in school, I'd go in and get my hitting and throwing in with Pat Fisher, and dude, it was awesome, and that was kind of my only normalcy. And then when the spring came around, being the dumbass kid I was, I asked my doctor like, "Hey, can I play?" And he was like, "What?" And the head nurse practitioner, I'll never forget. Her name was Ann, and we're still close today. And she was like, "No, no, you can't play." My doctor's like, "No, like if you feel up to it, like do it."
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of the treatments I was on, like dealing with kids through the years, they attack your joints, they attack your body,
Yeah.
and a lot of them, end up having to not relearn to walk, but they're banged up. And I truly think why I am able to be the physical person I am today is because I stayed moving through everything,
Yeah.
played through it. Doctor told me I had two rules, and don't get hit by pitches and don't dive. I remember my first game playing, I think I wore one on the ribs, and because my platelets were so low, I literally had like a tattoo of a ball. You could see every stitch. Bruise was my whole ribs, and I remember going in, pulling it up, and showing him, and he's like, "Bud, what you doing?" I remember diving, and like my whole chest was bruised. But like we talked about before we got on here, like it's that Northeast grit, man. Like
Yeah.
not to take that away from me. It was my only sense of normalcy to just go be a kid. So I wasn't holding back, fully exhausted myself, left it all out there. But that really shaped my mindset of there's nothing really you can put in front of me to that I can't. If I can't get over it, I'm gonna go through it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of what shaped me into the guy I am today. Um, and there's been times where like you kind of lose sight. of those days, and it's kind of like got to punch yourself in the mouth a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
remember where you came from, how far you come.
Yeah, definitely, man. Thanks for sharing that because that's an awesome story and obviously a big piece of who you are and the things that you value and appreciate. And then as that led into you growing up, you kind of described yourself as someone that didn't throw ultra hard. And then obviously you got to high school and I think you started to get some notoriety like sophomore, junior year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like it seemed like
Yeah.
you're working hard. You're starting to throw harder. Um, Knowing just from playing against you in high school, obviously you were a competitor, and I think that was your biggest tool. Like obviously you were nasty and not a fun at bat for anyone. But I mean, your competitiveness, man, is just takes you to another level. So can you kind of go into like developing, and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, now I'm really starting to throw this thing pretty well. Then you're kind of getting some notoriety from you played in the PG All American game. You're getting attention from some schools. Like, how do you navigate that, especially from the drastic difference of like, hey, I was a kid, and at one point they're like, you can play, but under these stipulations, and now it's like, I'm in high school, I'm leaving it all out there, and I'm really chasing this dream that I've had since I was a little kid.
Yeah. Freshman year, I made varsity, truly as a pitcher, right? Like I
Yeah.
was 78 to 82. And then something, you grow up, start to become a man. I had a huge velo jump going into my sophomore year, almost my last velo jump, which is pretty crazy about. um, like I went from 78 to 82 to, 87, 89.
Yeah.
Junior year started touching 90. Um, but really it was my background from the mentality side of things. And then, my dad didn't let me throw a curveball to high school.
Yep.
I pitched with two pitches to make that work through middle school and stuff. Like it came down to, changing speeds and locating and making the ball move one way and making the ball move another way, but, protecting my arm and all that kind of stuff. So then once I was able to grow up, become more of a man, the velo came, then it was like, okay, I'm still going to pitch, but now I have some more dominant stuff and, um, always kept that mindset and that fire. I was a lunatic as a kid. I still consider myself a lunatic, but it's much more controlled. There was a big learning curve there because it's so hard as a kid because your emotions are all over the place. Your brain's not
Of
developed,
course.
like hard to process failure. And, you're playing a game like baseball. There's, golf's become a big part of my life, in adulthood, but like there's two sports that really you can do everything right and still fail.
Yeah.
Uh, so learning how to deal with that, learning how to channel anger, who you can channel your anger at, like,
Yep.
that was all learning processes. Like you can't be an asshole to your teammates. You can't.
Yep.
And I never was malicious with it, but because I was such a competitor, I expected the best out of everybody and learning how to, you know, I became very hard on myself where, if there was an error, kid shouldn't have put the ball in play. Should have been a better pitch. I missed
Yeah.
a look, and you start taking that on yourself. And once I started looking at things that way, um, it turned me into a really good teammate, good clubhouse guy, and just from a working standpoint, like I wanted to be better every single day at something. Um, and you can attest to this from my first year, just the competitive side of things and hating to lose, ping pong.
Yeah.
Uh, first year when I got drafted, ping pong was huge with the Dodgers. I didn't win a game my first year. And I came home, and I'm not necessarily proud of this, but I would argue that I almost trained harder at ping pong that off season than baseball, and came back and was nasty and winning games and having competitive games and stuff. And, but that was big for the Dodgers, right? Like they wanted us to compete in every aspect of life.
Yeah.
Because the pitcher, right? Like you only got so many bullets every day. It's not like hitting where like you can go take 1,000 swings and, you might be sore and your hands might be bloody, but you'll be all right the next day. You throw
Yeah.
1,000 throws, like you're gonna end your career.
Yeah.
So like, you only have so much you can compete at as a pitcher every day. So it's the off the field stuff where you start competing, whether it's ping pong or video games or stupid
Yep.
shit like that. Like you got to get that competitive edge and stay competitive and learn how to be a competitor. And yeah, man, it's been a wild ride, and compete has always been, like you said, that's that fire, that rage, that compete. I don't care who's in the box, you know, I'm going toe to toe with you with whatever I have that day, whether
Yeah.
it's 5 or 105, I'm going to find a way to get the job done.
Yeah, I feel like that the competition side of what you said, like the Dodgers really valued you finding things outside of pitching, because I've never even really thought of it like that, where like truthfully, even on like some of your bullpen days, like you're gonna have like some lighter bullpen days, you're gonna have some flat ground days. Like there aren't gonna be every bullpen that you throw is 100% competition. So having something off the field that's like training your mind as well to be like, this is
Yep.
how I'm going to battle when I'm in competition, I think is really cool. I've never really thought about it like that. So that's like a cool perspective. But then you also brought up like the fire and the anger that you have sometimes in you, right? Matt and I talked about this on a previous podcast episode, and I'd love your kind of perspective and opinion on it. Like when Matt and I were in high school, both of us were kind of like late bloomers. Didn't really develop until like late junior year, maybe senior year of high school, like athletically, like started to get a little bit better. So we kind of had like a chip on our shoulder, and then like that fire comes, and it's like I'm gonna prove XYZ wrong, whatever, and then at the end of the day, right? Like I feel like that's a that can light a fire under your ass to a certain point, but at the end of the day, you got to find your why and why it drives you personally. Because
Yeah.
if you're like, I'm just going to do this to prove this person wrong, at the end of the day, I think it only takes you that far, right? I think it can be a really good starter fire wise, but like at the end of the day, you got to be able to play for yourself and for something bigger than yourself. So, can you kind of explain, like, in your perspective on going through that in like as a kid, early high school, and then kind of getting to where you are today? Because I know we talked about like you said you used to be a lunatic and now you're a little bit less of a lunatic. It's still in there, and I think it always still will be, and that's a good thing. But like, how did you navigate that, and how do you shift from, all right, I'm not gonna be like this is to shove it up your ass, but this is because this is what I want and this is where I want to go.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you hear a lot of the greats talk about it with, in all sports. Like if someone's not pissing you off, you make something up in your head,
Yeah.
right? Like Jordan and them used to say, like, they used to just make shit up, like, oh, this guy's talking shit. And
Yep.
like, you kind of find that fire. I went through a lot in high school, transferring,
Yeah.
dealing with stuff like that, having some coaches say some things about your career and kind of giving up on you, and not giving up on you, but like, I don't know, there's just some stupid shit said from coaches that I've had in the past that
Of
were kind of
course.
like in my head, I'm like, fuck you, dude. Like I'm going as far as I can. And like,
Yeah.
um, but from like a mindset standpoint, like I would say one of my best attributes as a competitor is the guy I am off the field
Yeah.
is very different than the guy I am on the field. It's
Yep.
kind of ego, I can flip that switch. So when I'm between the lines, dude, like you watch any one of my games, the hot mics got hotter as I went up in the levels, and I'm getting texts from my grandma after the game, like I used to be able to read your lips, but now I can hear you. Like COVID year was probably like the biggest wake up call because there's no fans to buff or anything.
Yeah. Yep.
If I'd let up a hit, I was taught to flush very young, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can have your blow up, but it has to be a flush. It can't go into the next pitch. It can't go into the next at bat. It can't go into the next inning. It can't go into the next day. I don't leave the clubhouse until, if I have to stay in the clubhouse till 2 a.m., like I'm not going to bring home that day's game, right?
Yep.
I pride myself on being the same guy every single day. But But from a goal setting standpoint, finding that internal drive, I was very blessed. I was, I think, 12 or 13 years old playing for the Arsenal. And we had like a preseason meeting, and Joe Barth, in the same meeting, we talked about, the funnel of players, right?
Yep.
There's a bazillion little leaguers. There's a million and millions of high school guys,
Yep.
and it slowly funnels down to that, top 1% of the one percenters. And finding a way to force yourself through that funnel when there's millions of people trying to do the same thing you are.
Yeah.
And then in that same meeting about the funnel, we talked about goal setting. And this honestly changed my life because I've seen it with guys, right? Your goal's to go D1.
Yep.
Great. They work their ass off. They get to the D1 and then it's like, oh shit, I have to reevaluate.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit and you kind of lose what you're looking for because you've achieved that goal now. From 12, 13 years old, the way I looked at goal setting was you have stepping stones, you have milestones, and then you have main goals, right? So like I wanted to go D1. You know, Looking back, like it's crazy to look at this, but like that was just a stepping stone for me.
Yeah. Yep.
Getting drafted was a stepping stone for me. Getting, to the big leagues, getting the double A, triple A, getting called up. Those were all stepping stones. My end goal was always be a Hall of Famer. And the way I looked at it was if you don't get there, it's not a failure, but you can look back and hang your hat on that you gave it everything. Because I never ran out of things to work for.
Of
So if
course.
I throw my last affiliated pitch, I can honestly, proudly hang my hat and say, I've done everything I can.
Yep.
Look back, amazing memories, brotherhood, the fraternity, pitching at the highest level, pitching in the playoffs in Yankee Stadium. Like, I've achieved so much. I haven't failed because I'm not going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
But even today, I'm still working for that. So having that mindset, it you never run out of things to work for. And like I've seen kids with great mindsets, like, hey, I want to be a big leaguer. Okay, you get to the big leagues. Now they have to reevaluate, like,
Yeah.
oh, how the hell do I stay here? How do I make this a 3, 5, 10-year career? And they're scrambling. So I was very lucky to have that talk so young and being able to at 12, 13 to grasp that and
Yeah.
use that in life. And there's a lot of things that like it's it's hard because I had a lot of talks with teachers because I was struggling in school and stuff like that. But dude, I wasn't all eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
I looked at school as I have to get by to play. If my
Yep.
grades weren't good enough, I couldn't play. If my grades weren't good enough, I wouldn't get through the clearinghouse and be able to achieve the D1 goal. If I didn't have high enough grades to, at Sanjack, right? Like I'm trying to transfer to Texas Tech. If I don't have myself set at a high standard in the classroom, even though that's not my goal, I was going to school to play baseball, right?
Yep.
Like if I don't keep those things up, I'm going to lose leverage in the draft, which is going to take dollars out of my bank account. It's going to take, things out. I'm going to lose leverage. And essentially they can say, hey, I know you don't have an option.
Yeah.
So here's a Snickers bar and a plane ticket. And you're going to have to take it if that's your dream. So like my goals were set that I did what I had to in the classroom, sat in the front row. I raised my hand. I tried. I didn't miss classes. I went to study hall, shit like that. But not because I wanted to or because I wanted the highest GPA. It was to make sure I could stay on the field to help my team win. It was to make sure I could stay on the field to put myself in the best position to get drafted. So like learning those goal setting mindsets young really set me up on a trajectory that like I said earlier, like you can put a wall in front of me. If I can't get around it or over it, I'll sit there and punch it until are broken until I break through it. And that's just that, Northeast grit, good mindset, everything I've been through in life that kind of set me up to just, no one's going to tell me no. Right. And
Yeah.
like, I was kind of faced with it this year, like, had some talks with people close to me, like, need to start looking at, the path to after baseball and all this. And honestly, it pissed me off. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not ready for that yet. I'm not old. I'm 29. I just, believe it or not, had my another velo jump since high school, right? Like the mindset change, that spit in the face, the Marlins giving up on me type deal, like kind of relit that fire of making me remember why I play this game.
Yeah.
And, touch a little bit on like what you said with the platform and finding other things to play for. Like it was very hard to not get caught up into the business side of baseball.
Yeah.
And I was taught very early in my career, the day you look at baseball as a job is the day your career starts to end. And I went through that, and I watched myself go through struggles on and off the field, hate the game. Um, but this last 6 months to a year has really kind of lit a fire under my ass. Like, you got a lot left to give. You belong there. And now it's just kind of fuck you. I'm going to prove you wrong and get back there. And again, if I don't, I know that I've put every ad within me that I can hang my hat and left nothing on the table.
Yeah. I mean, dude, just hearing you talk, man, you always have that fire, and like that competitive side of you just is going to take you as far as you want to take it, man. Like that's just going to continue, and you're going to have success in the Mexican League, and I have no doubt you're going to be back to wherever you want to be. Um, but you talked about goal setting, and Matt and I talked about this in a previous podcast, like the power of goal setting, and not even just that. Like I think the power that you described is like your stepping stones, your milestones, and then your overall goal. Like the overall goal is fantastic, but at the end of the day, it's the processes that you put
Mm-hmm.
in place. Like you talked about the stepping stones. Like, how do I get to each one of these stepping stones in order to reach my ultimate goal? Because the example Matt and I talked about previously was like when everyone starts a marathon, they all go, "What's the goal?" For most people, finish the marathon, right? And then it's like it's not the person that says, "I want to finish in this time," that's going to do it the best. It's the person that says, I want to finish in this time, and then from there says, I'm going to make the blueprint now every day to
Mm-hmm.
get to that point. We're like, I feel like a lot of kids, like you said, I want to play Division One. I want to play in the major leagues. Okay, well, what does that look like? What are the
Yeah.
stepping stones to get there? And I feel like that approach that you talked about resonates really well with kind of the things that we had discussed because I feel like that's most important about the process and like how how has your process stayed the same since high school and how has it changed a little bit? Because obviously you had success high school, you go through the minor leagues, success, made it to the big league, success. How does the process change rather than just like logistics obviously? You're in a different spot, you got to find different places to work out, places to throw. Like how does that work?
There's a one of the most challenging parts about this game is how long do you stick with something,
Yeah.
right? The mindset of if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Mhm.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that, and a big part of my routine. Right, my catcher in high school was John Panchella, one of my
Mhm.
best. He hated me for what I did, long tossing like an animal and my pregame routine and all that crazy
Yep.
shit. Like, not much of that has changed. The core has stayed the same since I was 16, 17 years old. But understanding, like, what was so cool in my eyes was, you know, I went to two different high schools. I went to two different colleges. I've been with three different organizations. The amount of people you meet who have something that is that sets them apart. When you talk to those people, you I've always I use the term like you got to be a piece of clay. So
Yeah.
like I'm always that same piece of clay, but you have to mold yourself as that career moves on, right? So like, okay, I really like what this guy does in his routine. I'm gonna try it. If I like it, I'm gonna add it in. Maybe take something out that I used to do and supplement that. And it's everything from pitches that I've had in my arsenal. Um, from a routine base, nutrition base, meditation, recovery. As you get older, right? Like I had a lot of people tell me, like when you turn 25, your body's going to react different. I don't know how to tell you right now, but start to prepare for it.
Yeah.
I debut at 23. I was in the minors for, 3.5 years. I did everything to prepare, right? Like prepare and recover, prepare and recover. I've always taken a lot of pride in that. But as you get older, it takes more time to prepare and more time to recover.
Yep.
And if you don't adapt, you're gonna find yourself get chewed up and spit out.
Yeah.
And I always gravitated to the veterans, the older guys in the clubhouse, how they carry themselves, how they go about their routines, and just asking questions, right? Like, hey, when you hit this wall, how did you get through it? Is it, cold tubbing? Is it, I went to long distance. I stopped doing long distance, started doing more sprint work. I cut back on long toss. I did more long toss and just like adapting as your career goes on, but not losing who you are at the core because I know I can speak for me. Like I got to where I was because of not just what I could do, but why I did things.
Yeah.
So from a preparation standpoint, one of the biggest blessings in my whole life being drafted by the Dodgers. Um, I always pitch with my eyes, and then in college you don't really have scouting report. High school you have no scouting report. You're just going toe to toe with what you have. So those years with Woody Williams, like as we grew, as our relationship grew, he called pitches. As the relationship grew, I was able to shake off if I wanted to.
Yep.
And what was awesome about Woody is he never talked down to you if you shook. I'd come into the dugout and he'd say, "Why'd you shake? What'd you see?" If it was just, I don't know, I didn't want to throw that pitch, then he's going to talk with why he called that pitch.
Yep.
And it taught me that through that process, he is seeing things. If there's one thing in baseball that I think fans and people don't truly understand, and this is what separates like, getting to the big leagues and not, is there is an infinite amount of games within the game of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't play those games, you're going to fizzle out. A great example that I watched, through the minor leagues was Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
Best in the world, right? Like absolute freak. Every year in spring training, he would come in with something new. He had the drop down, he added the slow curve, he added the cutter, he added, every year he had something new. Why? Because as much as we work and as much data and scouting report and all that shit that we have, the hitters are doing the same thing.
Yep.
And the more time you have in the big leagues, the more they're going to know you, your tendencies, what you're going to rely on. And there are times where the whole stadium knows the pitch you're going to throw,
Yep.
including the hitter. In a certain count, a certain situation, you're going to go to your bread and butter, the pitch you have most confidence with, and it comes down to execution. But it's also understanding that, like, sometimes the best pitch to throw might not be your best pitch because it plays into the hitter's approach. So you go to your second best pitch because that's his weakness. And learning those things, using your eyes, and back to getting drafted by the Dodgers, my first spring training, and I have yet to hear of any other organization do this, but they pretty much put us through classes.
Yeah.
They called it game calling university. It was the whole minor leagues in spring training, 2-3 times a week. There'd be 9 tables, and there would always be like 9 or 10 pitchers and a catcher. And it started with just, they put Mike Trout up there and you watch his swing. You watch 100 of his swings. And they'd cut the video and they'd look at us and say, how do you get him out? It's like, shit. Like, I don't know. And then they're like, okay, well, we're going to show you things from stances, loads,
Yep.
setup, on the plate. Is he off the plate? Leg kicks, stuff like that. What's his two strike approach? What's his 0-0 approach? And you start looking at all these things. And it got to the point where we can watch a video, and because of his bat angle, we know that X player is going to struggle with the ball up and in, or Y player is going to struggle with the ball down. And understanding that, you know, hitting's really fucking hard.
Yeah.
And everybody has holes, and it's exposing them, and, being able to execute. It comes down to execution and understanding holes. And, once we graduated from using our eyes, then they're like, okay, here's all the data now. Here's all the numbers. Here's all the scouting report, swing percentages and different counts. He struggles with this pitch. He hammers this pitch. You may hammer fastballs away, but he struggles with fastballs in. So then we were able to take our eyes and get data backed
Yeah.
confidence that, okay, so like I really dove into the whole scouting report
Yeah.
and breaking down a lineup. And I'll never forget it. It was one of my first starts after getting called up to high A. The guy was like an 8-hole hitter, and I've never seen a number so lighting up like neon signs on the Vegas Strip. Like, the guy swings and missed at like 80 something percent changeups from the left side.
Mm.
Changeup's my best pitch.
Yep.
I throw a fastball up and in, first pitch of the at bat, blow his doors off. And again, I'm only throwing 88, 91, like dominate him with a fastball. So now in my head, it's 2 changeups, he's done.
Yep.
I throw a changeup, he hits it over the fence. Changeup's my best pitch. It's what's got me to the big leagues. Like, I can throw it in any count. It's an elite movement pitch.
Yep.
Like, all of the above, right? And I executed it, and he hammered
Yeah.
it. And I walk off the field, and the pitching coordinator happened to be there, and he goes, Smeltz, what the fuck was that? And I'm like, what? And he's like, why'd you throw a changeup there? And confidently I said, over 80% of the times he swings and misses at left-handed changeups. It's my best pitch. I went at him with it. And he goes, fuck. He goes, you listen too well. He goes, your next lesson is listen to your eyes.
Mm.
So it was like that next step of the university, the game calling university that
Yeah.
like we hit in spring training was, if you blow a guy's doors off, don't speed his bat up, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
hit him with the fastball until he gets on time to it. And I would say that's when my career really took off. That walking off the field after the, second inning, third inning, whatever it was like, holy shit, there's another layer to this that I can now use. And that's, really what I took off with. And I live and die by the scouting report, but then it came down to it. You have to have trust in your eyes,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
if the hitter's going to tell you what he's looking for, and the minor leagues are much harder than the big leagues because you might have a rover come through and a guy for the last 4 years has had this swing, this approach, numbers back it up. And then all of a sudden he gets in the box and you're like, he looks different
Yeah.
now.
He
And
changed everything.
he made a swing adjustment. Now all of a sudden he's hammering everything. And it's like, sometimes you got to jump ship and
Yeah.
use your from the scouting report. Like, scouting reports are great, but sometimes the game's going to tell you what the game's going to tell you. And, it was a big, big jumping point in my career. And like, one of the coolest things, one of my favorite stories is my debut. So I get traded to the Twins. The big league coaches and players obviously don't know my background. They don't know my routine, how much I dive into scouting report, like hours and hours of video and all this. And I show up to my debut with my notebook filled with notes from the whole season. And on my plane ride to Minnesota from AAA, I broke down the Brewers lineup from the last lefty they faced.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in and have a full ass scouting report.
Yeah.
And Jason Castro was the catcher, and Wes Johnson was the pitching coach. And I sat down, opened up my notebook, was ready for business, and they're like, "The hell is that?" And I'm like, "My notes, my scouting report for today." And they're like, "It's your first day. How the fuck do you have?" Because I dove into it.
Yeah.
So, all right. And like we start talking, and immediately you can see like the mood in the room change. Like, okay, this kid's on top of his shit.
Yeah.
Immediate respect from the catcher, who I
Yep.
think at the time had like, he was a 10-year veteran, been
Yeah.
around forever. And they were like, all right, this means business. So like they started listening to what I had to say. Catcher did his homework. And like those meetings were always so much fun for me because catcher's going to do his homework. I'm going to do my homework. And then you have the analytic department do their homework. You come in, it's a meeting of the minds. You come up with an approach that day and shit. When you have that type of chemistry, like
Yeah.
I can just go out there and I have to worry about nothing but execution
Yeah.
because I have confidence that that catcher did all his work. I have the confidence I did my work. And it just comes down to, look, the process to get here is solid. Go out and execute. And it was awesome. Like that's really what, made me successful through the minor leagues and the big leagues was my ability to execute a plan, my ability to get punched in the face
Yeah.
and adapt, change pitches, change arm slots, change speeds, execute all that kind of stuff. And like, dude, it was just, it's so much fun. And it just goes back to that, like being a piece of clay. Like if I continued to what I did in college, like I was a two seam guy and it was a slurve back then, probably considered a sweeper now, but those were my two pitches. And I get to the Dodgers and it's like, hey, you have a good two seam, a decent two seam, but your four seam really rides. And I was like
Yeah.
90% two seam at the time. They're like, we want you to we want you to flip that script and we
Yeah.
want you to learn to pitch top of the zone. I don't think I get to double A if I continued doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it's not changing who I am. It's just changing the usages and the mindset a little bit. And just being adaptable, remembering who you are, but also being adaptable, not only through your career, but pitch to pitch, right? Like saw a video the other day of Maddox, this is the definition of playing the game within the game. It's him versus Jeff Bagwell early in the season. Um, they were up, I want to say 10 or more runs. Bagwell comes to the plate. The game plan was we're not throwing him a fastball in because he hammers him.
Yeah.
Well, bunch. He calls the catcher out and he said, "We're a good team. They're a good team. We're going to see them in the playoffs. We're going fastball in here." And the
Yeah.
catcher's like, "All right, dude, it's your career." Lets up an absolute nuke. Couple months go by. He's in the playoffs, and his mindset was hitters remember the good, they don't remember the bad. So if I
Yeah.
give him this pitch now, he's going to look for that when it matters.
Yep.
He threw him three changeups, punched him out, made him look like an idiot, and walking off the field, looked at the catcher, said, "You remember that?" The catcher's like, "What the fuck are you talking
Yeah.
about?" And I told you, you're looking for fastball in. And the catcher was like, "This guy's fucking different. Like,
Yeah.
he's playing games within games months ahead of time to make sure he wins the at bat when he needs to." And like, that's what it's all about, man. Like, taking your pride and ego out of it and understanding that, like, baseball's a long season. There's ups
Yeah.
and downs, but like those games within the games, man, if you can play those mind games and win them, that's how you're going to find success.
Thank you for listening to the ARC podcast. This episode is sponsored by the Philly Pretzel Factory of Marlton, located on North Maple Ave in Marlton, New Jersey.
Tell them Matt and Brandon sent you. We appreciate all your support. Thank you for listening, and back to the podcast.
Yeah, the Maddox story reminds me of like they used to say with Manny Ramirez, he'd like swing silly at the first curveball, so he'd get another one, and he's like, all right, like it'd be like right down the middle curveball. He's like, I'm gonna make this look ridiculous, and then he's like, all right, he's gonna come back with this, and I'm gonna hit this 800 feet, and he would
Yep.
just because that's unbelievable. The games inside
Yeah.
the games, though, man, that's like awesome. And for you to talk about your preparation like that, that's awesome to share, and like really shows too you're not just going out and performing on game day. And confidence comes with preparation.
Yep.
Like if you went out there and you had no idea about the lineup you were facing, you're like, I'm just going to throw my stuff. Like you can't go in there and be fully confident that you did everything
No.
that you could do. But yeah, you preparing like that, man, that's like that's next level. That's what separates you from someone that you said like might not have even made it past double A. So
Yep.
like
I mean,
that's
I
awesome.
look at how many kids I came through the system with, in rookie ball my first year, right? I hit my inning limit. I stayed in the AZL. I mean, I'm watching guys that now after almost 10 years in pro ball, there's guys in rookie ball that have a million times better shit than damn near Hall of Fame big leaguers,
Yeah.
but they don't know how to use it. They don't know how
Yep.
to prepare. They don't know how to play those games within the games, and they never get higher than high A, double A, whatever it is. But the guys like, Kershaw, I'll go back to again. Obviously, he's absolutely elite.
Yep.
But like as he's gotten older, his stuff's not as elite anymore.
Nope.
But his adaptability and his ways that he goes about the game is what keeps him relevant. It's what keeps him winning games. It's what keeps him getting jobs. Baseball's such a wild sport, right? Like you got Altuve, you got Judge, you got Bartolo Colon, you
Yep.
got Aroldis Chapman. You can have any type of body type. It doesn't necessarily matter, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not like football where if I can crack your skull and remember plays, I'm going to be okay. It's not
Yeah.
like basketball where God bless me being 8 foot tall. I'm going to be able to play basketball.
Yep.
Baseball, it comes down. It's you got to play chess when everyone else is playing checkers. You got to play those games within the games. You got to know who you are, believe in who you are, and just trust it and have that fuck you mentality of like I'm going to out compete you. I'm going to out execute you, and it's such a cool sport because of that. And golf, it's kind of the same thing too, right? Like you got the Shambo, who's an absolute animal, and then you got Rory, who's a smaller guy but still hits the ball just as far, if not farther than everybody. Like
Yep.
it's the two games, they really flow together and teach you a lot. But dude, it's such a wild sport.
It really is. I feel like it's so much more different than anything else that you can play. Like just even athletically, man. Like obviously there are the athletic freaks that you're like, that guy has it. But then
Yep.
there's like the guys that you're like, athletically, you're not looking like anyone that I'd be ultra impressed with. But then they go
Yeah.
out and perform, and it's like, oh, that guy was ready. That guy like has everything dialed to a T.
Yep. I mean, I had the pleasure of sharing a clubhouse for 6 years with Luis Ariz, and he's a great
Yeah.
example, right? Like, he's not the fastest guy in the world. He's not the most athletic guy in the world, but his work ethic, his preparation,
Yeah.
his bat the ball ability, his ability to manipulate scouting reports, stuff like that. Like, he's a great example, right? Like, he's in today's game an anomaly. He doesn't fit the mold, right? Everybody's launch angle, home run or punch out, and he's up there and says, "Fuck you! I'm gonna take 7 pitches and take my single and double," and he destroys pitchers. I always joked with him, man. Like I was like, "Hey, if we ever face each other in a game, you're getting a first pitch curveball in the ass, and you're going to first base." And he's like, "Oh, why? Why?" And I was like, "Because I'm not gonna let you have 3 at bats off me, 7 to 10 pitches every at bat, and you take
Yeah.
your damn single, and you just took 2, 3 innings off of my day because you're scrappy and punch me in the mouth. Like, just take first, dude." Like,
Yeah.
uh, but it comes down to that, and like, I always love and root for the guys that don't fit today's mold, and like I'm obviously one of them. I'm not a flamethrower. I'm not a huge punch out guy. I try getting them to put the ball on the floor and be efficient, go deep in games, and you got guys like Luis who, you know, could he change his approach and hit more homers? Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
But that's not who he is. And facing a lineup with a guy like that in there, he's going to go at least 2 for 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now you got to play that game where, like, okay, when he gets on, instead of it being a solo shot now, if a guy hits a homer after him, it's a 2-run homer.
Yep.
Solo shot kill you, but you start having guys in a lineup like that to where they're getting on base, and then you let up that homer. And now it's 2, 3-run homer, and it's weighing a lot more than if you just have a full lineup of power hitters. And it's like I'd rather face a full lineup of guys trying to go yard than a full lineup of Luis Ariz. Like, that shit
Yeah.
would be fucking crazy. But it's the game is wild, man, and it's changing, and good, bad, ugly, whatever. The game's changing. It's always going to change. It's always going to adapt. It's a cat and mouse offense, or pitching and hitting. And it was rise balls for the last 6 years. Now they have machines setting up, that they're starting to dominate that. Now sinkers are coming back into
Yep.
play. That
Yep.
constant adaptability, cat and mouse, where if you just stay doing the same shit, you're gonna become irrelevant.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I think the shift too is crazy that you said it's like it was for a while high spin guys, you want top of the zone, like you said, rise balls. And now we are shifting back into like power sinkers. The one seam is now like a thing. It's like
Yep.
it's crazy how much it evolves, man.
Yep.
It's
I mean,
really cool to see.
I look at 2020, the big pitch that was in that year was the gyro slider.
Yeah.
I learned a gyro slider. I throw it in 2020. I had some decent success with it. I show up in 2021, and they're like, the sweeper is the new pitch. I'm like, you couldn't have told me this in November. Like,
Yeah.
well, I had all off season to work on it. Now we're banging the gyro, adding the sweeper, and the game's constantly changing, and it's who can create the next best thing that
Yeah.
other people aren't doing, and then everyone's doing it. It's like, okay, now we got to find something else that they're not doing, and then because like I said, hitters, man, they're preparing just as much as us. They have just as much scouting report as us, and it's like, and with the technology of these freaking machines that they can set up and throw your pitches, it's like you sink or swim. You got to learn
Yeah.
to adapt and change your pitches, and kind of stay ahead of the curve as much as you can.
Yeah. And like you said, over the last 5+ years, you've grown and developed and changed some things and like made adjustments. Like you said, at your core, you're still the same competitor, but like some things obviously change, pitch usages change. So when you got called up to the big leagues, right, you had some success pretty early on. Um, how do you navigate that? And then again, pitching in a playoff game early in your career, how do you navigate that? And then like, as you said, years go on, new things are working and new things are not for like the big leagues, let's say, just like MLB as a whole, new pitches are in, new pitches are out. How do you navigate that where you have success early on and then it's like, all right, we know you had success and you were successful here. Now let's try to tweak some things moving forward to like see what else we can add on to this.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is you can't listen to every coach you come in contact with.
Yes. Yes.
I think that's one thing where I've watched guys struggle. Some guys I played college ball with that got into pro ball who were very good hitters, lost sight of who they were taking every swing tip from every person that like came in contact with them, and they struggle, right? Like, you have to find what works for you, stay adaptable, stay coachable, but like, you have to create your circle within your organization. You have to create your own circle outside of your organization, whether it's pitching coaches, analytic guys, scouting reports, stuff like that, to where that they have your best interest in mind. It's not just throwing shit at a wall and hoping it sticks. Like, I want data backed success
Yeah.
and I don't want to come in and, hey, you're going to throw right-handed now. I want to know why. Okay.
Yeah.
That might be the play, but why? Is this just a feeling, or is this
Yeah.
have meaning behind it? Um, and I think that the hardest thing that every player goes through, every single one, is understanding that it is your career at the end
Yep.
of the day. Especially in baseball, I went through trades, I went through DFAs, free agency, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like where you are today, you may not be there tomorrow.
Yep.
AAA coaches are different than big league coaches. Organization to organization, they have different philosophies, different mindsets. Understanding that if you don't create your circle of trust within your organization, but more importantly, outside of your
Yep.
organizations, God forbid, you get traded, you get released, you get picked up, and you're in a new place the next day, you're in a new city, new org, new mindset. It can be extremely overwhelming if you don't believe in what you're doing and have a circle that will continue to back you. Which I've been very blessed. You know, I've had the same agent since I was, 16, 17 years
Yeah.
old. And, you know, he was a pitching coach first. So he knows me better than anybody. He'll
Yeah.
call me, be like, dumbass, what are you doing? And it's that wake up call. But I have that trust so that, like, where if you don't have that trust and he says something like that, you're like, oh, fuck you. And you keep
Yep.
doing the thing. And it's like, you know, building that circle is so important. And, you know, my dad, my father-in-law, um, my agent, Woody, you know, veterans that I played with that I could, you know, bounce things off of.
Yep.
You know, everybody goes through the same shit,
Yeah.
whether it same or not. Like we all go through struggles, and that fraternity of professional baseball is so small. You find guys you believe in, you find guys that believe in you, and you use them throughout your career. Where like, you know, Jake Odorizzi was, you know, a good buddy of mine with the Twins, and you know, 2 years ago he was trying to get back and had a rehab start in Durham, and we were in town playing. You know, you go have a drink with him after the game and just talk shop, right?
Yeah.
Like going through some shit. How do we get through this? Like, um, and that's the thing. Like I've been very, very blessed with the teammates I've had. Really, really good clubhouses, and you know, I dropped down last year, kind of an experimental year, going out of the bullpen, lower arm slot. Was struggling with the two seam. And Mel Stottlemyre, the big league pitching coach for the Marlins, was like, "Do you know Sergio Romo at all?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I shared a clubhouse with him for 2 years. Like,
Yeah.
know him real well." He's like, "Hey, shoot him a text, see what he does with his, you know, sinker, see what we can do." I
Yeah.
shoot Sergio a text. He sends me a freaking encyclopedia on mindset of what he thinks and grit. He sent me like a 2-minute video, literally like holding the ball and showing me.
Yeah.
And I took that, switched the grip, and immediately got what I was looking for, and you know, understanding that kind of stuff. And like it comes back to just building that circle of guys you trust, guys you believe in, and more importantly, like when you have people that believe in you, their words weigh so much more when they talk to you about things. And like been very lucky, you know, with the Twins and the relationships I built there with, you know, Hall of Famers, Burt Blyleven and guys like that, Frank Viola, Tim Laudner. You know, they've been in my corner since I met them, and being able to just shoot them a text and be like, "Hey, I'm going through this," or, you know, they would catch me in the parking lot after, you know, getting sent down, and, you know, just giving you those words of wisdom that weigh so much on
Yeah.
just like, keep going, dude. Like, you belong here. You got the stuff to be here. Like, whether the moves are right, wrong, or indifferent, like, we believe in you, keep going. And that's that fuel that, like, when you're in those dark places, those people are able to, you know, shed some light on you.
Yeah. I feel like having those people in your corner is so important. And then, like you said, all the teammates that you've had throughout the years and the mentors and the ex big leaguers, the current big leaguers, the vets, like just having those people in your corner is awesome. Um, and super important to your development and your growth as not just an athlete, but as a person moving forward.
100%.
And I think you have a unique circumstance where your high school rotation is basically all in the big leagues or about to be in the big leagues. We got you, we got Zach Gallen, of course, we got Tyler Phillips, and then Hagenman's on the 40 man for the Mets, right? So he's like
Yeah. It's,
right about
it's a touchy subject because we didn't win a state championship. But uh, no, I talk about that a lot. You know, the talent that comes out of the Northeast. And, you know, we touched on it a little bit before we talked. Like, you
Yeah.
know, I live in Florida and Texas now, and seeing just the raw talent that's in these southern states. But there's just something different about Northeast guys, man.
Yep.
There's that grit, there's that fuck you, there's that like ice in the veins type mindset that, you know, we had so much talent up in that area. Like Jersey is such a small
Yep.
state. Um, but the amount of talent that comes out of there, you know, Todd Frazier, Mike Trout, Gallen, you know, it's absolutely insane. And like, but there is that like, yes, there is a super high talent level, but there's
Yep.
also that like six tool of that mentality that we have up there. And, you know, I ran a camp up there a few months ago, and just seeing these kids, it's like, it's such a breath of fresh air that like not much has changed.
Yeah.
Like even though like they're keeping up with the times and the technology and learning and teaching the different philosophies, they're still teaching grit.
Oh yeah.
They're still teaching the stuff that like we did when we were 12 years old,
Yep.
13 years old, that shaped us into the players that we are.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's awesome. And like, yeah, I mean, growing up, dude, you played with so many guys just in general from our area that went on and had professional careers, like whether it's affiliate or indie ball, man. Like our pocket, I'd say, of South Jersey, New Jersey as a whole, like, dude, there was some good talent, especially, I mean, especially at Bishop Eustace with you guys. That was cool to
Yeah.
watch from the other side.
Things we played, right? Like, you know, you being in Cherry Hill, Eastern always had a bunch of talent.
Yep.
Um, And then once I transferred to the Catholic school, you know, Bishop Eustace, ton of talent, St. Augustine, ton of talent,
Yep.
Camden Catholic, talent, like just a bunch of dudes, man. And like not very many egos. They
Yep.
willing to do whatever it took to win. Um, it was always so much fun, dude. Like looking back, competing in high school was just, you know, you're facing arms. Like I remember
Yeah.
having like Joe Gatto, who was, you know, 6'5", throwing mid-90s his senior year,
Yep.
like just a bunch of dudes, and like really like prepares you for the next level, right? And like because of the grit up there as well, you're gonna have that talent all over the country. You're gonna find talent everywhere, but just the mindset and how we played the game up there was just so different. And I truly don't think that me as Devin Smeltzer and who I am, if I grew up in another place, I'd get to where I've gotten to without having that Northeast grit in my blood.
Definitely. Now, do you have any comment on Cherry Hill West walking Bishop Eustace off in 2014 at Tom Trotman Field?
No comment. Oh man, losses. There's some losses in high school that really, um, you know, and there was always such a rivalry between those few towns that we had. Because looking back, like living where I live now, like everything is so far apart
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
huge. We're like up there, it's like, you know, Cherry Hill's 5 minutes away,
Yep.
Pensauken's 10 minutes away. You know, all these different towns were Marlton, Mount Laurel, all these different
All
towns
there.
producing absolute studs
Yeah.
are like all within a half hour of each other. And
Yeah.
that's not even going over the bridge into Philly. Like
Yeah.
that's South Jersey area. And like, it's funny. I always joke, like, you don't associate with North Jersey. It's a different country.
Yep.
I swear they should just split into two states, South North Jersey, because like it's wild. It's wild to me. Like looking back, we didn't play a North Jersey team until the state championship.
Yeah. Yep.
So like as small as our state was, like an hour bus ride in Texas is like one of the teams in your like division.
Yeah.
We're like
Dude.
an hour bus ride in New Jersey. We weren't playing those teams until the state championship. You had to play your way out of this tiny ass little square 30-minute radius that
Yeah.
was like, just loaded with talent. Lenape, Cherokee, Eastern, Cherry Hill, East and West. Like,
Yep.
and then you throw in all the Catholic schools. It's like, it's absolutely insane.
My wife's parents live in Key West, and we went and watched like the Key West high school baseball team last year, and we were hearing about them traveling like up to where they have to play. Dude, it's like they were talking about they travel. Their shortest ride was like 2 hours basically, and I
Yeah.
was like, I remember being in high school and we would travel to Winslow, which was like maybe 40 minutes when
And
there's
we were,
traffic. And I'm like, come on, like I'm not gonna get home till like 8:30. Like
yeah,
these kids are like, they gotta travel 3 hours and they gotta come back home. Like, dude, it's crazy.
yeah, it's absolutely insane. Like, and that's, Key West is crazy, obviously, because they're a little island all the way down
Yep.
at the bottom. Like, just looking at Florida, like getting from the south side of Fort Myers to the north side of Fort Myers can
Yep.
take you an hour. Like,
Yep.
and then, Bonita Springs, Naples, like all these schools all the way up to Tampa, it's like the towns are so much bigger.
Huge.
And like they have multiple schools, obviously, but like the travel is absolutely insane.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely insane. Like looking back, like, yeah, I remember bitching about play like Shawnee.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's like, God, we got to go all the way out there on a yellow dog, and then like, your knees are hurting and this and that,
Yep.
and it's, dude, it was like a 30-minute bus ride.
Yeah.
Rest of the country's traveling like 2-3 hours to go play in division team. It's like
Yeah.
absolutely insane.
Unreal, dude. It's crazy. But again, dude, I value a lot Northeast baseball and just the lessons that it's taught me, and I'm sure you too. Like even man, like the fans, like it sounds stupid, but like, dude, fans and benches, man, like that probably got you prepared for playing in bigger stadiums because it's like even though there are more people, dude, the noise that you would hear in South Jersey baseball games is like these guys are way louder. They're chirping at me about X, Y, and Z. Like I'm ready for this moment. This is quiet.
All I know is Bishop Houston going into Gloucester Catholic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Uh, it's different, man. I mean, they're wearing you out. They're wearing out your family, your girlfriend. They
Yep.
know every single detail about you, and nothing is off the table.
Nothing's
Nothing.
off the table.
And like, they're dirty. They play hard. They're playing mind games. Like those games were awesome. And I honestly, I don't know if there is that anywhere else in the country. Like
No.
the rivalries you can honestly say every school has a rivalry where we grew up.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah. There's always something.
yeah, there's always some blood.
Yep.
Someone's pissed off at somebody, like coaches switching, or
Yep.
just long years of just like competition and hating each other, and
Yep.
it's wild looking back. Like you said, everything's within a half hour. Like once I went to the Catholic school, and it was like Eustis, Gloucester Catholic, Paul VI, Camden Catholic, like all those schools are like damn near a stone's throw
Yeah,
apart,
they're all so close.
and like just hate each other.
Yeah.
Just absolutely hate each other. And it does. It prepares you for that next level. And like baseball meant everything to us. Like
Yeah.
you look at the bloodlines of families and coaches from the Barths to the Fishers and guys like that. Like it's just different, man. Like, and I have yet to experience that in any other place that I've been.
Yeah, dude, it's special. It fires me up that you were talking about it like that because it's just I'm passionate about it. Obviously, you are too. So that's cool to hear that you still kind of have that passion and love, and that it's never gonna leave you.
Dude, one of the greatest experiences of my life was going to Philly for my first time. Now It was a horrible outing. It was a horrible, like it was terrible. But one of the coolest things I experienced is I'm sitting in the bullpen, and I won't say her name because I don't want to get her in trouble. But it was somebody from Eustis who gave me a hard time a lot. Just kind of breaking my balls doing her job. But
Yep.
all I hear is like, "Fuck you, Smeltzer." And I turn and look, and I just laugh, shake my head, and wave. And Matt Barnes was sitting next to me, and he goes, "Who the hell is that?" And I was like, "If I told you, you wouldn't believe me." And he's like, "Who was that?" And I was like, she was pretty high up at the Catholic school that I went to, and Matt Barnes drops his head and goes, "I fucking hate this place, man." And that day just kept getting more and more crazy. So like shit starting hitting the fan. Sandy was having a rough outing. I wasn't supposed to pitch till Wednesday, but I knew what my role was. So
Yeah.
like I started getting moving, and I'm doing weighted balls, and there's this group of like 18 to 22-year-olds like above the bullpen in Philly,
Yep.
and they are wearing me out. And I look up, I was like, "Hey, shut the fuck up. I'm one of you." And they're like, "What's that supposed to mean?" I was like, "Google me." So literally, like, I watched these kids pull out their phone, and they were like, on to like their buddies, and they were
Yeah.
like, "All right, you're cool, but fuck you today." And then, I go in, I pitch, I finish the game, and I had like 50 something people there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They all come down to the field after the game. Not one of them was wearing Marlins gear. Not one of them. And I'm shaking my head as they're coming down, and the security guard looks at me. He's like, "They're with you?" And I'm like, "Yep." And they come down, and I'm like, "You guys got to be kidding." And they're like, "What?" And I was like, "Not
Not
even
one.
neutral colors? You're wearing Phillies gear." And they're like, "Well, you weren't supposed to pitch till Wednesday." I was like, "I don't give a shit. This is my first time coming home. Like, I'm in Marlins uniform in Citizens Bank Park for the first, like, this is the full circle moment. Not one of you are wearing like anything neutral. Well, you gotta be shitting me." I was like, "This is the Philly thing ever," and I don't know why I expected it any different.
Oh, dude,
But
that's so funny.
and then that playoff experience in New York. So my dad wasn't supposed to be able to make it. I'm out shagging BP, and I hear him call my name. I turned
Wow.
around. I was like, "Holy shit! Like, what are you doing here? I didn't think you were gonna make it." He's like, "I wouldn't miss this for the world." He's got my jersey on, and I'm like, "Where are you sitting?" And he's like, "Right here." And I'm like, "No, you're not." And he's like, "What? What's wrong?" And I was like, "Take my jersey off."
They're gonna kill you.
I was like, "You're sitting with the bleacher creatures. Like, these people literally come to the game to get ejected and get in fights. Like, their main goal is to see how much they can get away with until they get ejected."
Yeah.
"Oh, no, I'm fine. I'm like, "Dad, I know you're here for me. Just take my jersey off. I don't want you leaving in a body bag, please." He's like, "No, I'm fine." This lucky son of a bitch, dude. The guy next to him starts talking shit. Big, you stereotypical New Yorker,
Yep.
big Italian guy, and he starts talking shit to my dad. He's like, "Hey, I'm a Jersey guy. It's my kid. I'm not a Twins fan, but it's my kid. I'm from Jersey." And he goes, "No fucking shit. You're from Jersey? That's your kid?" My dad didn't tell him we were South Jersey and Phillies fans, but
Yeah.
he played his cards right. But my dad had a freaking bodyguard the rest of the game.
No way.
Every time someone would start talking shit, he'd be like, "Hey, shut the fuck up. He's from Jersey. It's his kid. It's his kid." Only you would have the luck to not get your ass fucking kicked in New York with the bleacher creature with my jersey on. But it was wild, man. Like being up in that, like you said, like obviously a much larger scale than being at
Of
Glossy,
course.
but like it's the same shit talk.
It's the same. Yeah, it's the same.
Same at a higher level, and like I don't hear fans. There's two names I can hear in stands, no matter how many people there are there. It's my dad and my father-in-law. For whatever reason, I'm getting hot, and Rocco starts walking in the mound. So I'm like, all right, here we go. Like, I'm going into the playoff game right now. And for whatever reason, I hear one fan. And he goes, "Hey, Smeltzer, you know why you're going in? You're down 7 runs and you fucking suck." Just run in. And I'm running in, and the stadium goes fucking nuts. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then it starts to like register. They were doing Jerry.
Oh,
I, I turn and peek over my shoulder at the board, and they're showing Jerry Springer on the board. And I'm I'm like, dude, this place is different, and I am here for it, man. Like, this is so much. Because, like, growing up, like, I always played for the teams that were hated, right?
Yep.
I played for the Young Guns. I played for the Tri-State Arsenal, GVAA. Eastern was hated. Eustis was hated.
Yep.
Like, I always loved I loved being hated. I thought
Yeah.
that was such a competitive edge going into a place and just being hated, and, like, being in Yankee Stadium knowing that probably anybody in that stadium would kill me just for fun, like, is, like, awesome. Or, like, throw a battery at me or something,
Yeah.
like, beat the shit out of me. Like, I just feed off that. Like, absolutely love it. And, like, getting the experience. I never pitched in Boston, but got to go there. Um, the way the fans are in Boston,
Yeah.
Philly, Mets, Yankees, like, they're just a different breed, dude. And,
Yep.
like, their shit talk is just unmatched. Like,
Yeah.
I remember going to Toronto for my first time, and we're out shagging BP, and, like, I might say that their banter is better than anywhere else because they're hockey people.
Yeah. Yep.
Hockey banter is, like, unmatched.
Yeah.
But it was another, like, group of just, like, college kids, and they're wearing me out. And I'm like, I start giving it back to them, just
Yep.
being a, Philly guy, whatever. And they're like, oh, you're kind of cool. You want a beer? And I look up at them. I'm like, bro, I'm literally at work right now. Like, I can't drink a beer during BP. And he's like, come on, man, we'll throw you one down. Come on, come on. And I'm like, dude, I cannot drink a beer right now. I'm going to lose my job. But, like, Toronto was fun, too, just because of, like, the hockey culture there. Like, they're very witty. It's
Yeah.
not like your typical shit talk. Like, when they turn, it's like you kind of laugh. Like, damn, dude, that was a
Yeah.
good one. All right. But yeah, man, like, the South Jersey mindset of just, like, there may only be 50 people at your game,
Yep.
but those 50 people are wearing your ass out. Like,
Yeah.
and you had to get thick skin, dude. Like, and if you didn't get because, looking back, it's like, oh yeah, such a small scale. But when you're there, like, that's your first experience of someone literally shitting on you while you're competing.
Yep.
And, like, you either get thick skin or you let it affect you. And, like, it prepared me so much going into, conference teams in college, going
Yeah.
into having a bunch of scouts watching, pitching for something bigger where, like, you're trying to be a team guy, win for the team, but you're also pitching for yourself, your career, all that kind of stuff. Like, it just creates this heavy, heavy, thick, callous skin that I don't know if you can get anywhere else in the country.
Yeah. And like you said, you had teammates that they hear something like that and you're like laughing it off. You're like, that was funny. And they're like, what? They're like, I hate this place. And it's like, once you're in it, you can almost be able to rise to the occasion when it happens because you're like, oh, I'm home. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like this is normal.
Dude, literally that game in Philly. So I was at the game that got the Dollar Dog Night banned. Which broke my heart, right? Because growing up, Dollar Dog Night was,
Oh,
like, the reason to go to the game.
top
Like,
tier.
yeah, like, you're getting dollar dogs, bro. Like, it's the best.
Yep.
And we're sitting in the bullpen, and this was before I went in, and I look over, and it was the section, like, right field, foul line, like, foul
Yeah.
territory. Bro, there are literally thousands of hot dogs just getting chucked. Like, I'm telling you, like, I'm surprised nobody got signed from that with some of the arms being exposed on how hard they were throwing these hot dogs at each other. And I'm just sitting there giggling, and everyone's like, I fucking hate this place, bro. Like, they're like, this place do, and I'm just like, these are my people,
Yeah.
man. Like,
Yeah. This is it.
I was one of those assholes as a kid. Like, I remember sitting up near the Wolf Pack as a kid when Randy Wolf was the closer and stuff. And, like, dude, just, like, it's your people, man. You feel at home. As hostile as the environment is, it's like you're literally getting shit on by these people, and you're like, I've never felt more comfortable.
Yeah. I feel good. This is great.
I feel like I'm at home. Like, dude, you have no idea the things I would do to put on those red pinstripes and pitch in Citizens Bank Park, bro. Like, pitching there in a visiting uniform was wild, but I literally, like, I can't even begin to fathom
Yeah.
what oceans would be having the Phillies across your chest, red pinstripes running out there, taking them out at the bank, bro. Absolutely insane.
Dude, yeah, I mean that's got to be the most special event of them all, dude. Putting on the pinstripe, the team that you rooted for. Like I know, I mean Tyler Phillips did it last year. Like that's crazy, man. That's like
It see the
unbelievable.
picture. You see the pictures of like him and his dad at the
Yes,
game
dude.
stuff. Like, bro, that's the dream.
Yeah.
Like I have accomplished so many things in this game, but
Yep.
it's like I think anything would touch a random game on a Tuesday in April, putting like suiting up at the bank, bro. Like nothing would ever compare to that.
No, dude. I completely agree. That would be unmatched, bro. And who
Yep.
knows, dude? I'm rooting
Yeah.
for
Who
it.
knows, man? I love, dude. I pray for it. I'll tell you that. I pray to put those pinstripes on at least one time.
Life works in mysterious ways, man. So I definitely am. I'm rooting for that for you. But
For sure.
I've kept you here long enough so we can wrap this up. I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
Now, moving forward, what are your goals and what's your plan moving forward, man? We talked about like the experiences that you've had, the resilience that you've shown. Like now, what drives you to this day still, and where do you want to end up? What's the goal?
Yeah. So for me right now, I would say the last 6 months, I've really learned the love and passion for the game again.
Yeah.
Um, and I've heard Mexico is one of the greatest places in the world for that.
Yep.
Uh, so I'm excited where I'm at physically and mentally to go in there, have fun, play baseball in its rawest form. You
Yep.
know, from what I hear, the way they play the game there is hard nosed, win every night.
Yep.
There's no politics in it. There's no business side of it. It's we are trying to win every single night. If it's bunting and moving a guy over, if it's intentionally walking somebody, like they play the game hard, they play the game smart. So I'm super excited to go there, go try pitching for a championship there. And then, in my selfish goals, my goal is to get back to the big leagues and prove myself again, right? Like find a way to stick, find a way to get that opportunity to go put a big league uniform on in the States again. Um, and like I touched on earlier, I know with how I've worked, the diet changes, the recovery changes over this last 6 months. Like I'm in the best shape physically and mentally I've ever been in. It's showing up in bullpens and live BPs. My stuff's good. My command's there. Velo's there. I'm going to go give every ounce of me. If I spend 1 year in Mexico and my career is done, if I spend 10 years in Mexico and my career is done, if I get myself back into the States, whatever the path looks like, I know that I can hang my hat, that I've given it every ounce of me. Um, and yeah, man, that is the goal. My goal is to get back to the big leagues, and in the process, I'm gonna try to go winning the Mexican championship. I'm gonna go try, passing the torch. This is my first time going to another country to
Yeah.
where I don't speak the language. So, learning from that standpoint, learning how to be a good teammate
Yep.
in, in an atmosphere where I can't necessarily just speak fluently,
Yep.
still trying to find a way to be a leader in the clubhouse. Um, but leading by example if I can't speak it and, just fucking win, bro. I just want to win. I haven't won in a long time. Um, it's been a few years since I've been on like a winning team
Yep.
and, being a part over the last, few months in the group text with a lot of trials and tribulations through language barriers. It seems like a really good group of guys talking to the GM and the guys that are running my team. Like they want to fucking win.
Yeah.
And they're signing guys like me. We've picked up a couple other big leaguers. I'm really lucky. I have a couple teammates I played with the Twins that are going there as well.
That's
So
awesome.
like, it's going to be such a fucking cool experience. And I hope I get to experience it to the fullest, win as much as I can. If I'm there a month and get a job, great. If I'm there the full season, awesome. But I'm trying to fucking win, man. I want to put a ring on my finger, bring bring a ring to Chihuahua, and then the main goal is to get the hell back into the States and get back to the big leagues, man.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, I have no doubt that you're going to be able to get there, dude. Like, just the competitiveness you have, just the relentlessness to keep going and strive every day to be better. I have no doubt you're going to get where you want to be. Um, Thank you for coming on. Seriously, you always have the support from us, dude. We're always in your corner, and I'm fired up for the journey that you're on, man. And dude, it was good catching up with you and talking with you because um, seriously, we're rooting for you heavy, and we know you're going to be successful, man.
But yeah, I miss those late nights in Franks, man. I'll get back up there. I'm planning on next off season. I want to get back up there for a bit, get those late nights of ping pong in, and get back with the boys. Like it was so much fun looking back, like with you and DC and
Yeah.
being dumbasses in there. Like remember that night we were ripping tennis balls at DC
Oh
and like
yeah.
pong and stuff. Like dude, like this game has blessed me. You can take away every pitch I've thrown, the relationships I've made from little
Yep.
league to and everything in between. Um, it's that fraternity that people don't understand, right? Like, no matter what level you play at, like, I look at my wedding. Outside of my brother, you literally could go through a timeline of my
Yeah.
career, the people that, became my brothers. And um, it's that fraternity, man. And it's unmatched anywhere else in the world.
Dude, that's awesome, man. But dude, thank you again for coming on. You're gonna keep dominating, doing your thing. I'm excited to keep up with it. And then when you're back in Jersey, we'll have to rematch on that ping pong, and
Got it.
I'll have to step my game up. I'm gonna keep practicing, and I'll be ready.
Sounds good, brother. I appreciate you having me.
Of course. All right.
All right.
Later,
Talk to you
brother.
soon. Later.